Meditative drawing is the practice of drawing lines, dots, or shapes over and over to create a pattern such that it gives your brain something to focus on, and then all the other thoughts drift away. So it's a wonderful way of lowering your stress level while doing something that's fun and creative. There's lots of different techniques or different drawing skills that are covered in different sessions. So these are all different sorts of exercises that we're doing in meditative drawing. Okay. On materials, for what we're doing today, any sort of marker are good. Might be solvent-based like the Sharpies, or water-based. If you're using solvent-based markers, then you need to put a scrap of paper underneath so that it doesn't bleed through. I'm just going to use some standard markers today that you might get at a supermarket or an office supplies place or an art supplies shop. And I'm going to start with 3 colors, and I recommend that you do choose just 3 colors because it helps your brain start to quiet down, because while you're in the middle of the drawing session, you're just choosing between those 3. You're not having to make more and more decisions and keep your brain active. So choose 3 colors and use whatever markers you have. On papers, you can use drawing paper, copy paper, or an art journal. Any of those is just fine. So basically use whatever blank paper that you've got. Okay, we're going to do what's called box breathing or square breathing, and I'll explain what we're doing with the breath, and then we're going to combine this with drawing. So it's called box breathing because each side of the square or the box you're doing to the counts of 3, or after you relax more, you can do it to counts of 4. That's fine. And as we go around the box, you're breathing in, you're holding the breath, you're breathing out, you're holding, breathing in, hold the breath, breathe out, and just hold or pause between the breaths. And you're just keeping that rhythm going. Now, if any time you're uncomfortable, you just stop and go back to your normal breathing. But this is a technique that you can use to quiet the breath. Now, to give us something visual to do, so our brain has something to think about, we're going to do this to and draw at the same time. Okay, so instead of sort of just drawing squares, we're going to draw up when we breathe in, over the top when we're holding the breath, and down when we're breathing out, holding, breathing in, holding, and breathing out, holding, breathing in, holding, and breathing out, holding, breathing in, and holding, breathing out, breathing in, and out. A few more. Breathing. Hold and out. Out. Hold. In. Okay, so that's a technique you can use anytime. And I found out quite recently that in the Navy SEALs use that as a technique to calm themselves and clear their head before they go into combat. So they've obviously used it in very, very stressful situations. And hopefully our lives aren't anything like that. But it's really good to know that it really is a proven technique to just quiet the brain down in a very short amount of time. So if you're trying to go to sleep and you've got racing thoughts or strong emotion that you're uncomfortable with, then you can use this technique, and it helps clear the brain, just quiet you down, lower your cortisol levels so that you can either concentrate on whatever you need to do next, or you might be able to get to sleep or go do something and not be anxious or so preoccupied. Great. Okay, in this session, we're going to do what I call stroke. So simple strokes to create different sorts of patterns. And you'll see on your worksheet that there are a whole bunch of samples of strokes that you can use as patterns, and then some different ideas for what you can do with them. So we're going to do two things with those. We're going to, one, just make a sample page where you get used to making the kinds of marks that I'm talking about. And then we're also going to draw on the worksheet where there's some outlines of mugs, and you can make your own patterns or use these patterns on the mugs to create your own sort of designs. Okay, and these marks can also be used to create all sorts of different artwork that you might want to play around with yourself. So these are just ideas, and then you can go off and use them in lots of different ways. But for today in the session, we're just going to do an experiment sheet sort of to do your samples, get used to making the marks, and then color in the mugs. Okay. Okay, to begin, I'm going to look at the worksheet and just start with the first set of marks, and I'll just do a bunch of those on one blank sheet of paper as a sample sheet. And just focus on making marks on the page. And if you're doing them in a line, just pay attention to that. Just focus on that. So I'm doing some shorter marks here. And then I might just do another row of longer marks, all in a row. And I found I quite just find it sort of soothing how as you work away, you just gradually build up a whole pattern, and the marks have a rhythm to them in the repetition. And that you can start seeing how patterns build up just by repeating the same sort of marks over and over. And sometimes my thoughts stray, and then I just sort of, oh, that's right, I'm thinking about shopping or an appointment tomorrow or something. And then I just bring my brain back to what I'm doing here. So just getting used to that. Okay, so that's the first mark. And then I might change colors and do one of the others. Let's see. Okay, I'll do that. Let's see. So I'm going to do the marks spaced out at first, and then I'll go back and do the second mark that's offset. And for this one, I'm choosing to do marks roughly the same size. Not worrying about it, but roughly the same size. And just want to build up a block of pattern and get used to making that sort of marks. And as you go, just notice your breathing. Sometimes when we're tense, we breathe rather shallowly. So every once in a while, just sort of notice. Might make a loud sigh. Just consciously do a few deep breaths. To finish them, I might do some short marks so that this has sort of a nice rectangular block shape about it. Okay, so I've got two blocks there. Now, let's see, if I wanted to, I could do the same thing, but much smaller marks. So, yeah, I might do that. So why don't I might do some smaller marks here. Maybe I won't make this rectangular. Maybe I will have it go at an angle, the edges. The edges sort of be a parallelogram shape. Okay, all right, so there's another block. So again, I'm using the very simple marks that are on here, but just playing around with them and just giving my brain something specific to do. Then other thoughts can drift away. Okay. All right, so let's see. The next one is the crosses or the X's. So I might play with that. First, I'll just do them in one color. What shall I do here? And I can do the same length marks at first. And I can line them up. Okay. Then I might do some smaller ones. And with these, I'm doing both strokes the same length. And then, let's see, I might do them a little more haphazard, as if, one short, one long. And I might change the angles of them. So you can see these are quite regular and they're all lined up. So I'm playing with something just asymmetrical. And with meditative drawing, it's more about the process than thinking about creating an image or trying to make something that's perfect or beautiful or even. So at this point, we're really just playing, and that's important to keep in mind, because you don't have to. It's not about doing anything right, and you don't have to worry about what this looks like, because you can just throw it away at the end. Meditative drawing can be used as a process and not so much about creating a particular finished artwork, but just as an exercise to quiet your brain down. Okay, so a bunch of different ways of playing with that. And then I might go on and do some different colored crosses or X's in here. Yeah, so basically I'm playing around with different things I can do with these very simple marks. All right, now I might look at the marks at the bottom here and play around with what I can do there. Okay, so just making different sort of marks and playing around with what I can do on the page. Okay, and then let's see. And just notice how much pressure you put on the marker on the page and what kind of mark it makes. And if you do a lighter pressure, do you get a thinner line? Just you can experiment with that. And over time, you get used to your markers and the kind of marks they make. And yeah, if you press harder, it usually makes just a little fatter line. And you can also change the angle of what you're doing and seeing what difference that makes. Yeah, and just this is the other sample sheet that I did. So just playing around with all the different sort of marks you make. So you can alternate them. What haven't I done here? What might I do next? Oh, okay, so really simple techniques here. What else can I do? Okay, so there's my sample page. All sorts of different kinds of marks and just sort of laid out haphazardly. And you can see a whole mix of the choices that you could have played around with. Okay, now I'm going to go to the template. Keep the same markers. And I'm looking at using exactly the same markers and the same kinds of marks, but putting them onto my own blank template and doing my own variation. So at this point you've got some comfort with the kinds of marks that you're making, and we'll just start playing. Yeah, okay. And as we're going, these may seem quite simple, but just the practice of doing this gives you quite a few drawing skills. And often when you're doing a session with a whole set of marks like this, then that gets your brain going and you start thinking of other sorts of marks that you might make. Just allow yourself to focus on one thing. Yeah, okay. So you can decorate these mugs any way you like and follow along with what I'm doing, or again, you can just make up your own. That's absolutely fine. And my goal is to give you some skills so that you can quiet your brain anytime that you want to and use this as a practice to take charge of your own moods. Okay, yeah. Good. Okay. So you can just work your way around. There we go. Focus on these now. Let's see, what shall I do next? And I've certainly found that being able to control your own moods or change your mood when you're feeling angry or upset is a really useful skill for mental stability, for just being able to control your mental health. And if you have an angry phone call or an interaction with somebody where it's frustrating, it's really useful to know that you can do something to quiet your brain down. So for me, meditative drawing has been a really useful tool where if you are feeling some strong emotion or anger, or resentment, or grief, that you can do something to sort of forget the world and tune out for a while and just give your brain a chance to quiet down, a chance to rest. Okay. So just doing short and long lines. And I've done meditative drawing with staff at Whittlesea Council, and Whittlesea Council was one of the worst hit areas of Melbourne for during the COVID epidemic, and they had very long lockdowns, and their staff had to solve an awful lot of very difficult, highly emotional problems in COVID, and they were doing a debrief event afterwards to go through things that happened and talk to staff about any systems that needed changed, and to just to review what happened during the COVID pandemic, which was a difficult event to go through. And at the end of that, then they brought me in to do some meditative drawing with their employees so that they could let go of the stress of the day and go home feeling good. So I think it's really important to know that you can use meditative drawing or whatever technique works for you to let go of stress or to let go of a bad mood, and that you can take control of how you're feeling. And if you're in a bad mood, you don't have to stay that way. Good. Okay. So I'd be curious how you decorate your mugs. So we've just worked with 3 markers, and you'll work at your own speed, which is just fine. There's lots of different ways that you might decorate these. And you've got the worksheets so you can do more drawings and do a whole bunch of variations of playing around with these same marks to make whatever sort of doodles you like, and that you really can use this just to doodle, just to make marks and forget the world for a while. You can put on some mellow music or a timer and give yourself a block of time to do that. And I hope you've enjoyed the session. And my email address is on the worksheet, so I'd be delighted just to have some photos of the work that you did, just to see what you did with the inspiration. Thank you very much.